Walt and I were old friends. Our families were friends. My son Jack was going with his daughter, and we were, as fathers, we were saying, well, won't that be nice? And nothing happened, but Walt and I had traveled in Europe. We had done the entertainment at the Winter Olympics at Squaw Valley, and we brought up stars, and I emceed the shows. Very funny. And when it first happened, all the tables were different nationalities because the athletes clung together, the Russians and the French and the Germans and so forth, and they had interpreters. And you'd get up to tell a joke, and they'd all laugh at a different time because that languages had different lengths. You know, you'd tell a joke, the French, the Germans, the Swedish, and finally the English, of course. But he asked me if I would be MC. It was live, 2 hours. No tape in those days, no rehearsal, jumping all over the fairgrounds and doing the thing. And he knew I was good at that. And so he wanted me to do it. And then he said, Art, we have a difficult moment here. He says, we're good friends. And he says, and I've got to negotiate with you a price. Why don't you have an agent like every other normal star in Hollywood? And I said, because I like to do my own deals. Well, he said, I'm not playing poor boy, but you know, because you've been with me, we've had cost overruns, we've had strikes, we've had problems financing, I've had to mortgage part of the studio. I said, it's a sad story, but don't tell me anymore because you don't need any of those arguments with me. I'll do it for scale. He says, you'll do it for scale. I said, certainly. And in return, I expect you to do something for me. I said, I'm a partner in one of the largest photo development companies in L.A., Royalton, and I would like to have the concession for all the film and all the cameras sold at Disneyland for the next 10 years. He says, you got it. So I got the highest fee anybody ever got for appearing on any show, even Oprah. We went out there, and it was a mess. It was a hot day. The freshly laid asphalt was sticking to the ladies' high heels. Some of the things weren't working right. In fact, the show, many people forget, Disneyland, now one of the greatest hits in the history of entertainment, got bad reviews from almost everybody. The crowds got, the things weren't quite ready. I've seen this in the opening of 3 World's Fairs. See, so there is where my experience, San Diego, Dallas, and San Francisco, were all the fairs, always open, unready. They never get ready. And so I was ready for lights to go out. One time I ran to a place in the western town, and I was supposed to have a microphone lying there, and the camera was there, and somebody put a microphone under a pile of lumber, and we couldn't find it. And I know they were on page 45, and I was supposed to go to be on page 46. We better find this microphone before it came time. We did. And all these kind of things happened. And then years later, I flew down to Florida with Walt and went up in the governor's balloon while secrecy, and we looked for the place where there was going to be Disney. So it was, I knew him until he died. And we were dear friends, and Lois and his wife, Lil, were good friends. And it was a great experience to see this man work.
What influence do you think he had on television?
Great influence. In the first place, he clung to the business of family, Disney and its Family Hour. Remember on ABC every Sunday, and he appeared. I see that Eisner's going to do it again this coming fall. And he was always talking about family, the American family. When he and I would be walking around in Tivoli Gardens in Denmark, he'd have his notebook out. He'd be writing down. I said, what are you writing down now, Walt? He says, look at all the lights, every one, every night they put the lights in. No lights are allowed to go out. He says, look at all the benches they have. They have places for people to sit. Look at all the different kinds of restaurants placed in this kind of ways. And I said, well, what do you care about that? And he said, someday I'm going to have a big show for the American family, and it's going to be comfortable. It's going to have wonderful people working there. And he was thinking that far ahead. Mm-hmm. that far ahead. And so I saw all those things to him, and he was a great family guy, but he kept smoking. And I used to tell him, don't smoke, Walt.